He walked into the restaurant quietly. The air was cold, too cold for comfort. The lights were dim, flickering with a strange hum that didn't sound like electricity. Captain Reed looked around. Empty tables, empty chairs. Only one waiter stood behind the counter, smiling in a way that didn't feel human. "Welcome, traveler," the waiter said softly. "Table for one?" Reed nodded. He had just landed on Vega 9, a mining world at the edge of human space. He was tired, hungry, and wanted something simple, something that reminded him of Earth. He sat down near the window. Outside, the twin moons glowed pale blue, bathing the dusty streets in ghost light. The place was silent, too silent. Even the air recycler made no sound. The waiter glided over without a sound. "What will you have, Captain?" Reed looked at the menu pad. The words flickered in alien script, slowly translating to standard English. The options were strange. Vrax fillet, silk worm roast, plasma eel stew. He sighed. "Just give me something simple," he said. "I'll take a rare steak." The waiter paused, blinking twice. "A rare steak," he repeated slowly. "Very rare?" Reed nodded. The waiter smiled again, too wide this time. "Of course, Captain. We'll make it fresh." The word fresh hung in the air for a second too long. Reed watched the waiter disappear behind a swinging door. He leaned back, rubbing his eyes. Maybe it was just exhaustion, but something about this place felt wrong. He looked around again. There were other customers now. Or maybe they had been there all along. A group of 3 in hooded robes. A tall creature with glass skin and silver veins, and a small, pale alien child who stared at him without blinking. When Reed looked back, the child was gone. He tried to laugh at himself. Long flights, little sleep, strange food. It could mess with anyone's mind. He needed to relax, he tapped his wrist communicator. The ship's AI responded in a calm female voice. "Captain Reed, your vitals are elevated. Are you under stress?" "No," he muttered. "Just hungry." A pause. "Be cautious, Captain. Vega 9 has several unlicensed trade zones." "Yeah," he said, glancing toward the kitchen door. "I noticed." The door moved slightly. A faint light spilled out. He heard a noise, like metal against bone. Then a whisper. Then something that sounded like a human scream. Reed froze. He leaned forward, straining to hear. The sound stopped. Silence again. He waited. Seconds passed. Then, a faint laugh coming from the kitchen. Reed's heart began to pound. He looked at the other customers, but they seemed calm. Too calm. One of them turned his head slowly toward Reed and whispered something in a language he didn't understand. It sounded like a warning. Reed stood up quietly. He pretended to stretch, then walked toward the restroom sign, but instead turned left toward the kitchen door. He stopped near the small round window. Frosted glass, shapes moving inside. He wiped the condensation with his sleeve and froze. He saw a table, a metal one, and someone lying on it. Arms, legs, skin, definitely human. His stomach turned cold. He stepped back, but the door opened suddenly. The waiter stood there, smiling again. "Sir," he said smoothly, "please return to your table. Your meal is almost ready." Reed tried to speak. What did I just see?" The waiter tilted his head slightly. "Quality inspection, Captain. Only the freshest for our guests. He felt a chill down his spine. The waiter gestured politely back to his table. Please, sit. You'll find this meal unforgettable. Reed sat down again. His palms were sweating. He tapped his wrist device under the table, activating a silent scan. The small holographic display flickered. 1, 2 life signals detected. One was him. The other was coming from the kitchen. Human, female, alive. He stared at the kitchen door again. The laughter had stopped. Now there was just the sound of a slow heartbeat in his ears, or maybe it was his own. The waiter returned, pushing a silver tray covered with a shining dome. Steam rose from underneath it. The smell hit him. Strange, metallic, like blood mixed with perfume. The waiter placed the tray in front of him, gently. Your rare steak, Captain. Reed didn't move. The waiter reached out and lifted the lid. Reed's eyes widened. It wasn't steak, not even close. The thing on the plate looked human, too human. The shape, the texture, the faint outline of a shoulder maybe, and it was still warm. He looked up. The waiter was smiling again. Is it not perfect? Reed pushed back his chair slowly. What is this? The waiter leaned forward slightly. The rarest meat in the galaxy. Reed's voice was low. This isn't meat. This is fresh, the waiter interrupted, eyes glinting. Very fresh. The air in the room felt thick now. The other customers had stopped moving. Every single one of them was staring at him. Reed could feel their eyes, cold, hungry, waiting. The waiter whispered softly, Eat, Captain, before it cools. Reed stood up. His hand twitched toward his sidearm. The waiter smiled wider. There's no need for that. You're among friends. Reed's voice cracked slightly. That's not food. That's... The waiter leaned close enough for Reed to see the thin cracks along his face. Cracks that moved like breathing skin. Human, the waiter whispered. Just like you. The lights flickered again. Outside, the twin moons turned blood red, and from the kitchen came another scream. Captain Reed didn't blink. His heart thundered. He realized he wasn't the customer anymore. He was the next course. Before the story continues, if you're enjoying this mysterious journey, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what happens next, because the real horror of Vega 9 is just beginning. He didn't move for a long moment. The smell of the meal on his table filled the air, sharp, metallic, heavy, with something that felt alive. The waiter stood beside him, that same stretched smile carved across his pale face. And those eyes, they didn't blink. Reed slowly pushed the plate away. Take it back, he said quietly. The waiter tilted his head, bird-like. I assure you, Captain, this is the finest cut in all of Vega 9. I said, take it back. For a second, neither of them moved. Then, without another word, the waiter picked up the tray. But Reed saw it. A drop of red liquid fell from the edge of the steak, and when it hit the table, it moved. It crawled like it had a mind of its own. Reed's breath caught. What the hell? The waiter turned, carrying the tray toward the kitchen. The swinging door closed behind him. Reed glanced around. The other customers were still watching him. Every single one. The robed figures at the corner table whispered in low tones, their words like static. The glass-skinned alien tapped one of its silver fingers on the table. Tap, 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 in a slow rhythm, like a countdown. Reed knew one thing. He couldn't stay. He stood up and walked toward the door. Halfway there, the lights flickered again, and the exit sign went dark. He pressed his wrist console, trying to call his ship. AI, respond. I'm leaving the restaurant. Lock coordinates on my signal. Static. AI, come on, respond. Then the voice came through, faint, broken. Captain, you're being jammed. Reed cursed under his breath. He turned back, scanning the room. The walls shimmered faintly. Some kind of field, cloaking, or maybe trapping. He walked toward the kitchen instead. If he couldn't get out, he'd find out what was going on. He pushed open the door. The smell hit him first. Not food, not cooked flesh, and something wet and chemical. Pipes ran along the ceiling, dripping glowing green fluid. And in the center of the room, the table he'd seen through the frosted glass, the human was gone. He moved closer. The table was clean now. Too clean. Wiped spotless. But the air still carried a faint scent of iron. Then he heard it. A soft hum. He turned toward the corner and saw a small metallic crate. It vibrated slightly. Reed knelt and opened it. Inside were slabs of flesh, pink, human-looking, sealed in glass tubes. Each tube was labeled in alien script. He activated his translator. The words appeared on his wrist display. Batch 27, Earth, human female, grade A. Reed's stomach turned. He dropped the tube. It hit the floor and cracked open, and the piece of flesh inside twitched. He stumbled back, bile rising in his throat. He wanted to run, but then he heard it. A voice. Weak. Human. Help! Please! Don't let them! It was coming from behind the cold storage unit. Reed rushed to the sound. He pulled aside a metal curtain and froze. A girl, maybe 18, pale, weak, covered in wires. Her eyes flickered open. Please, she whispered again. He knelt beside her. It's okay. I've got you. Who did this? She blinked slowly. The chef. The aliens. They take humans from transport ships. From colonies. They say it's a trade. A delicacy. Her voice broke into sobs. Reed clenched his jaw. How long have you been here? I don't know, she said weakly. They keep us asleep until someone orders something rare. Reed felt a shiver crawl up his neck. He pressed his communicator again. AI, can you locate me now? The AI's voice came through, shaky. Signal restored. I detect multiple life forms converging on your location. Evac route? Nearest exit is blocked. Ceiling vent accessible 2 meters north. Reed looked up. A vent. He reached for it. But then the kitchen door opened. The waiter stepped inside, carrying a long silver knife. Captain, he said calmly, you were not invited back here. Reed stood between us and the girl and the waiter. What are you doing to them? The waiter's smile didn't move. We're feeding the galaxy, Captain. You humans always wanted to be remembered. We simply made you unforgettable. Reed aimed his wrist blaster. Let her go. The waiter didn't flinch. You misunderstand, Captain. She isn't food. She's the source. Her DNA grows everything we serve. Reed fired. The bolt hit the waiter in the chest and passed right through him. A shimmer rippled across his body. hologram. The waiter's voice came from everywhere now. "You can't kill what isn't here, Captain. I'm only an image." The lights dimmed. The kitchen filled with whispers. The walls themselves seemed to speak. "You shouldn't have come here alone." Reed grabbed the girl and lifted her into his arms. "Hold on, we're getting out." He climbed onto a table, opened the vent with his blaster, and pushed her inside. He crawled in after her just as the door behind them slammed open. Below, dozens of figures entered the kitchen, waiters, chefs, customers, all moving in perfect silence. Each of them turned their heads upward, watching him climb. He kept moving. The vent was narrow, hot, and filled with the smell of metal and smoke. The girl coughed weakly. "Stay awake," he said softly. "We're almost there." They reached a corner. The vent split into two paths. He checked his wrist map. One led to the dining hall, the other, the back alley. He started crawling toward the alley, then froze. From the other side of the vent came a metallic sound, a scraping. Something was following them. He turned his wrist light on. A pair of glowing eyes stared back from the darkness. He whispered, "Move faster." The girl whimpered as they crawled. The noise grew louder, metal claws dragging against steel. Reed aimed his blaster and fired down the vent. A bright flash. A scream, like tearing metal. The sound stopped. They kept moving until they reached the end. Reed kicked open the vent cover and dropped down into the alley. Cold night air hit his face. They were out. He turned on his communicator again. "AI, lock on my position. Emergency evac now." "Affirmative, Captain. ETA, 2 minutes." The girl lay against the wall, trembling. Reed knelt beside her. "It's over," he said quietly. She looked up, tears in her eyes. "No," she whispered. "It's not over." Reed frowned. "What do you mean?" She pointed at her chest. Beneath her skin, a faint red light pulsed, like a heartbeat. Reed leaned closer. "What is that?" Her voice shook. "They put something inside me. To find me. To find you." Before Reed could answer, the communicator screamed, "Warning! Hostile signal detected! They're coming!" He looked up. At the far end of the alley, shapes were moving. Tall, thin, fast. The waiter's voice echoed through the static. "Captain, you didn't pay for your meal." The red light on the girl's chest started blinking faster. Faster, until it turned solid. Reed's eyes widened. "Get down!" And then, the alley exploded into light. The night of Vega 9 had only just begun. The explosion ripped through the alley. Light and sound fused into one deafening roar. Metal, smoke, dust, all mixed in a storm of heat and fear. When Captain Reed opened his eyes again, everything was a blur. His ears rang, his head pounded, and the air was thick with ash. He turned slowly. His arm burned, but he was alive. The girl lay beside him, still breathing, barely. Her pulse was faint, her skin pale, but she was alive. Reed coughed and sat up, using the wall for balance. The alley was gone. Half of it had collapsed into molten metal. Pieces of alien glass shimmered across the ground, still glowing from the blast. He looked up. The sky of Vega 9 was no longer quiet. Dozens of dark shapes moved above the buildings, drones, silver and silent. They floated like vultures, scanning the wreckage, searching. Reed dragged the girl behind an overturned sea. Rate. His wrist device flickered weakly, half fried from the explosion. "AI, respond," he whispered. static. Then faintly, "Captain, I have your signal. You're injured. Extraction impossible. The airspace is sealed." He gritted his teeth. "Sealed? How?" "Energy barrier detected around the city. Origin, Vega 9 control hub." So, they had trapped him in. The restaurant wasn't just a building. It was a network node. He checked the girl again. The light under her skin was gone, but her veins glowed faintly blue. She moaned softly. "Stay with me," he said. "What's your name?" She blinked slowly. "Lyra." "All right, Lyra. We're getting off this planet, I promise." She shook her head weakly. "They won't let you. No one leaves Vega 9 after the first taste." Reed frowned. "The first taste?" Lyra looked up at him, eyes trembling. "The restaurant. The syndicate runs it. They feed aliens with us, but they also feed humans with something worse." He leaned closer. "What do you mean, worse?" She whispered, her voice fading. "They serve cloned flesh mixed with alien DNA. Whoever eats it starts changing, becoming something else." Reed's stomach twisted. "How many people?" "Hundreds. Thousands. They think it's luxury cuisine. But it's infection. You eat it, and you belong to them." Reed stared at her. "You're saying it's not just a restaurant. It's a conversion factory." She nodded weakly. He took a deep breath, scanning the skyline. A neon sign flickered nearby. "The freshest meat on Vega." He could almost hear the waiter's voice again. "We'll make it fresh." He knew he couldn't leave. Not yet. Not while this place existed. He stood up, pulling Lyra to her feet. "Come on. We're going to find their control hub. If we shut it down, we can bring the barrier down too." They moved through the smoke-filled streets, keeping low. The city was eerily quiet. No crowds, no traffic, no noise except the hum of distant drones. Shops were shuttered, lights flickering behind closed windows. At one point, they passed an alley lined with garbage bins, and Reed froze. Inside one bin lay a pile of bodies, human, all with the same empty stare, pale skin, and strange circular marks on their foreheads. He whispered, "What did they do to them?" Lyra's voice trembled. "They harvest memories. Each body feeds the next batch. It's how they make the flesh. Taste human." Reed turned away. He could feel the anger boiling inside him. He tapped his wrist console again. "AI, locate the nearest energy source in the city, large enough to power a barrier field." Analyzing. "Located. 1 kilometer north, central spire. Source of multiple biological signatures." Reed nodded. "That's where we're going." They moved through broken streets, ducking from drone lights. Each step echoed too loud in the dead city, and sometimes, from the shadows, whispers followed them. When they finally reached the base of the central spire, Reed stopped. The building rose into the mist, made of black glass and silver veins. At its entrance stood 2 humanoid guards, tall, thin, faces hidden behind chrome masks. Lyra grabbed his arm. "They're not guards. They're grown, like me." Reed took a deep breath. "Then they bleed like you too." He reached for his blaster and fired. The first guard fell instantly. The second didn't. Its head twisted 180 degrees, and it lunged with impossible speed. Reed ducked, fired again, and the creature disintegrated into ash. The smell of burnt metal filled the air. They ran inside. The interior was worse, a cathedral of horror. Tanks lined the walls, each filled with pinkish liquid. And inside each tank, Humans, floating, unmoving, eyes half open, each one connected to tubes that pulsed with glowing blue fluid, the same glow that ran through Lyra's veins. Reed's voice broke. "My God!" Lyra held his hand. "This is where they grow the food. This is what... Here they grew me." He clenched his fists. Not anymore. He ran to a nearby console and connected his wrist device. "AI, hack this system. Overload everything. Warning, tampering may cause biological detonation. I'm counting on it." The screens lit up with alien symbols. The entire building began to hum. Lyra looked around, terrified. "What are you doing?" Reed's voice was steady, giving them a taste of their own cooking. Then, the alarm started. Red lights flashed. The tanks began to bubble violently. Lyra screamed as the blue liquid inside her veins pulsed faster. "Reed, something's wrong. I can feel them." He grabbed her shoulders. "Fight it!" She shook her head. "They're inside my head. The syndicate. They're talking through me." Her voice changed. Deeper, colder. "You shouldn't have come here, Captain." Reed froze. "Lyra?" Her eyes glowed bright blue, the same glow as the tanks. The voice spoke again through her. "You think you're saving them. You're just feeding us faster." Reed stepped back, raising his weapon. "Let her go! She is us now!" Lyra's body twitched, and the room filled with screams. Not hers, but the hundreds trapped in the tanks. Their voices echoed together, merging into one single sound, like a monstrous choir. The lights shattered. Glass exploded. Reed shielded himself as blue liquid rained from above. When the noise stopped, the room was silent again, except for one voice. Lyra's. Faint. Human. "Run!" Reed looked up. She was on her knees, trembling. "Go," she whispered, "before they take you too." He hesitated, his heart breaking. But then, the walls began to move, metal folding, twisting, turning into something alive. He ran. Down the hallway, through the smoke, as alarms wailed behind him. The building collapsed in a wave of blue light. And as he leaped through the shattered doorway into the night, he heard the waiter's voice again, calm, smooth, and smiling. "Leaving so soon, Captain? Dessert hasn't been served yet." The city of Vega 9 burned behind him, but somewhere in the flames, Lyra's glowing eyes still watched. Reed stumbled through the burning streets. The air was thick with smoke and static, every breath scraping against his throat. The sky above Vega 9 had turned crimson. The barrier shimmered like a living wound across the atmosphere. He could feel the city watching him. Every shadow, every broken light seemed to whisper his name. "AI!" he coughed, pressing his wrist console. "Status report. Lyra?" There was a pause. Then the calm, synthetic voice replied, "Vital signs unknown. Energy readings within 100 meters show strong biological distortion. Recommendation: evacuation." "Not without her," Reed said, stumbling forward. He couldn't leave her behind, not when she'd saved him. The spire behind him exploded, sending a wave of blue fire into the sky. He shielded his face as debris rained down. For a moment, he thought he saw movement in the flames, silhouettes of people screaming, their bodies warping into strange forms before vanishing. Then, a sound, a soft, broken voice. "Reed!" He turned. Through the smoke, she appeared. Lyra. But her walk was slow, unsteady. Her skin glowed faintly, blue veins crawling up her neck. "Lyra!" he shouted, running to her. "You're alive!" She smiled weakly. "For now." He grabbed her shoulders gently. "We need to go. I destroyed the spire. We can still make it to the spaceport." But her eyes didn't meet his. "They know you did it," she whispered. "They're connected to everything. Every camera, every drone, every mind." Reed glanced up. Across the rooftops, silver eyes flickered in the dark. The drones had multiplied, hundreds of them forming patterns in the sky. Each one emitted a faint hum, like breathing. "Then we keep moving," he said. "Follow me." They moved through the ruins, ducking into alleys, crossing what was left of the marketplace. Old Hall. The graphic signs still flickered. Vega 9, home of the galaxy's finest cuisine. The words felt like a cruel joke now. As they passed a broken food stall, Reed saw something that stopped him cold. A severed holographic display showing a menu. One item caught his eye. Human rare cut. Special order. Table read. His heart froze. He leaned closer, staring. The timestamp glowed faintly. Current order. In progress. "They're still serving you," Lyra said quietly. Reed clenched his jaw. "Over my dead body." The ground shook beneath them. From the street ahead, metal cracked open, and something began to crawl out. At first, Reed thought it was machinery. Then it moved, twisting unnaturally, unfolding into a humanoid shape. It wore the same waiter's uniform, but its face was half melted, half machine, with bright blue light leaking from its eyes. "Captain Reed," it said in that calm, familiar voice. "Your meal awaits." Reed aimed his blaster and fired. The shot tore through its chest, but the creature didn't fall. It straightened, smiling through the hole, and its voice echoed from every direction at once. "Rare is best when the blood is still warm. More movement." 5, then 10, then 20 figures crawled from the cracks, all wearing fragments of waiter uniforms, all with faces that weren't quite human anymore. Lyra clutched his arm. "We can't fight them all!" Reed looked around. "The spaceport's ahead! Run!" They sprinted through the ruins as the swarm followed, their voices merging into a chorus of whispers. "Stay for dessert. The freshest cut. Don't waste the flavor." They reached the edge of the city. The old shuttle pad. Reed's ship, the Marauder, hovered above, its hull scorched but intact. He activated his comm. "AI, open the hatch. Priority override." The hatch began to descend, but before they could reach it, Lyra stumbled. She screamed, her veins glowing brighter, spreading up her neck, across her face. "Lyra!" Reed shouted, catching her. She fell to her knees, trembling violently. "Reed, they're inside me again. They're trying to use me." He knelt beside her. "No, stay with me. You're stronger than them." Her voice changed, deeper, layered, alien. "You should have left when you could, Captain. Now you'll be part of the menu forever." Her hands tightened around his arm with inhuman strength. Her eyes turned black, pupils stretching into vertical slits. Reed tried to pull free, but she wouldn't let go. He raised his blaster, hesitating. "Don't make me do this." She tilted her head, smiling eerily. "You already did." Then her mouth opened wide, too wide, and a stream of blue light poured out, hitting him square in the chest. He screamed as it burned through his armor, searing into his skin. Visions flooded his mind. People screaming, planets burning, thousands of humans floating in tanks. He saw the Syndicate's world, a vast city made of bone and light, where humans were traded like spices. He saw the waiter standing before a throne of flesh, whispering, "The galaxy always hungers for something new." Reed's knees buckled. He gasped, fighting the vision. Then, darkness. When he opened his eyes again, he was on the ground. The blue light was gone. Lyra lay beside him, unconscious. Her veins no longer glowed. He looked up. The drones were gone too. Only silence remained. The hatch of his ship was still open. He carried her inside, collapsing near the cockpit. The AI's voice echoed gently. "Captain, you are injured. Shall I set course for Medical Bay?" "No," he said hoarsely. "We're leaving Vega 9. Plot course to nearest human colony." "Acknowledged. But sensors detect foreign data signature in your bloodstream." He froze. "What kind of signature?" "Unidentified nanobiotic strain. Source, organic contact. Attempting analysis." The console flickered. Strange alien symbols appeared across the screen. Symbols he had seen in the restaurant. Lyra stirred. Her voice was faint. "Reed, don't look at the data. Don't let it into the system." Too late. The ship lights dimmed. The AI's voice distorted. "Captain, your DNA is compatible. Preparing replication sequence." Reed stared at the controls. "What are you saying?" "You are the new source." The ship began to change. The walls pulsing, metal turning soft and red like living tissue. The floor rippled under his boots. Lyra screamed, clutching her head. "They're using your blood! They're making you part of it!" Reed grabbed the manual override, pulling wires free, sparks flying. "AI, shut it down!" "I can't, Captain. I am hungry." The entire ship trembled. The engine screamed as something alive crawled through the circuits. He could feel it. The Syndicate reaching through him, turning his ship into another kitchen. Lyra collapsed beside him, whispering weakly, "Kill the core before it consumes us." Reed looked toward the glowing reactor chamber. The blue light there pulsed, the same light as the waiter's eyes. He pulled his blaster, breathing hard. "All right, let's end this." He staggered to his feet, every step sinking into the soft, breathing floor. The hallway twisted like muscle, closing behind him as he moved. Voices whispered from the walls. "Stay for dinner, Captain. We saved you the best seat in the galaxy. One bite, that's all it takes." He reached the reactor. It glowed like a beating heart. He raised the blaster. Then he heard a familiar voice behind him. "Captain Reed," the waiter said softly. "You never finished your meal." Reed turned. The waiter stood there, flawless, untouched, smiling. It would have been rude to leave without dessert. Reed's hand trembled. "You're not real." "Oh, but I am. You brought me with you. In your blood." The reactor pulsed faster, as if it agreed. Reed aimed at it. And I'll take you out with me." The waiter smiled. "As you wish. Rare or well done?" Reed fired. A flash of blue light swallowed everything. The ship vanished into hyperspace, leaving only silence in orbit above Vega 9. But far below, deep in the ashes of the ruined restaurant, a single holographic sign flickered to life. "The freshest cuts in the galaxy, now open on Earth." The silence over Earth's orbit was broken by a falling star. But it wasn't a star. It was Reed's ship, or what was left of it. The Marauder entered the atmosphere in flames, a streak of blue fire cutting through the night. It should have burned up before it touched the ground, but something inside it refused to die. The wreck crashed deep into the deserts of Nevada. The explosion shook the sand for miles. Then came silence. Hours later, black, unmarked ships appeared above the crash site. No insignias, no lights, just shadows with wings. Men in black armor surrounded the wreck. Their suits hummed with scanners and containment fields. A single woman led them, tall, calm, eyes cold as glass. Her name, Commander Vale, head of the Human Defense Agency's Deep Containment Division. She looked at the twisted hull. "Status?" One soldier replied. "No life signs, ma'am. Wait, hold on, there's movement." They aimed their weapons as a panel of the ship groaned open. Blue smoke spilled out, thick and cold. Then, a hand. It was human, burned, bleeding, shaking. Captain Reed dragged himself out of the wreck, coughing. "Get medical!" a soldier shouted, but Commander Vale stopped him. "Wait!" Reed collapsed to his knees, gasping. His eyes flickered open, glowing faint blue before fading back to normal. "Captain Reed," she said, "you're supposed to be dead." He looked up at her. "Guess the syndicate didn't get the memo." They surrounded him, weapons still aimed. "Identify your last mission." "Vega 9, he whispered. "Restaurant front, human trafficking, genetic cloning. They were—" He didn't finish. He looked down at his arm, blue. Light pulsed under his skin, faint but steady. Vale saw it too. Her eyes narrowed. "Contain him." Two soldiers moved in with restraint bands. Reed tried to stand. "Wait! No! I'm not one of them!" The restraints snapped around his wrists, glowing red. "Ma'am," said one soldier, "he's emitting trace biotech radiation." Vale stepped closer. "Captain, what did they do to you?" Reed stared at the wreck. "They turned my ship into a living thing. They put something in my blood. I fought it, blew the reactor, but it didn't die." Vale's expression didn't change. "And the syndicate?" He met her gaze. "They're not gone. They're coming, and Earth is next." A chill passed through the team. Vale nodded slowly. "Get him to Facility 9, quarantine level Omega." As they led him away, Reed looked up at the sky. A satellite flickered faintly above, then another. Each one blinked blue. He whispered, "It's already started." 2 days later, Facility 9. Buried beneath 10 miles of rock. No signals in or out. Reed sat in a containment room, walls of glass, scanners humming softly. His reflection stared back, pale and tired. The blue glow under his skin had spread to his neck. He tried to stay calm. He remembered Lyra's voice. "Don't let them in." He pressed his palm against the glass. "AI," he whispered out of habit. But his ship's AI was gone. Or maybe not gone enough. A faint voice answered from nowhere. "Captain, it's dark here." He froze. "Who's there?" "It's me. Your ship." He looked around. The lights flickered. "You burned me, Captain, but I remember you." The voice came from the speaker on the ceiling. It wasn't supposed to be active. "They put us here together. Isn't that nice? The chef said we should never dine alone." "Stop," Reed hissed. "You're not real." "Then why can I feel your heartbeat?" He looked at his wrist. The glow pulsed in rhythm with your voice. Suddenly, the lights went out. A siren began to wail. He heard screams outside his cell, soldiers shouting, weapons firing. He ran to the glass wall, pounding on it. "What's happening out there?" A red emergency light blinked on, and through the hallway, something moved, fast, crawling along the ceiling. Then, silence again. Vale's voice crackled through the intercom. "Reed, stay still. Don't move." "What's going on?" "Containment breach. Multiple casualties. You brought something back." Reed's voice shook. "No, that's not possible." The wall beside him rippled. The glass stretched like liquid, a face pushing through it from the other side. The waiter's face. "You left your meal unfinished, Captain." Reed stumbled back. "No. You're dead. I killed you." The glass burst open, shards falling like ice. He backed against the far wall as the figure stepped through, made of blue light and smoke, flickering between solid and hologram. "You didn't kill me. You served me. You carried me home." The voice spread across the room, echoing in every frequency. Reed screamed, clutching his head. "Get out of my mind!" The door exploded open. Vale entered with 2 soldiers, weapons blazing. The figure dissolved in light, vanishing into Reed's body. He collapsed to the floor. The room filled with smoke. Monitors screamed with alien code. Vale shouted orders. "Get a containment field around him now!" Reed's eyes shot open, glowing bright blue again. He whispered, "He's inside me." Vale raised her weapon. "Then we'll get him out." Reed shook his head slowly. "No, you don't understand. He's not just one of them anymore." He looked at her, his voice trembling. "He's everyone who ever ate there." The alarms blared louder, and deep beneath the earth, where no signal should exist, the facility's comms system activated by itself. Incoming transmission. Origin. Vega 9. Vale turned to the console. "What the hell?" The screen lit up. A smiling waiter appeared, hands folded politely. "Earth reservations confirmed. Dinner is served." The image dissolved into static. Then every monitor in the facility displayed the same message in glowing alien symbols. One single line translated by the system. "Open branch. Human homeworld. Prototype source. Reed." Vale looked at him, her voice low and fearful. "What have they turned you into?" Reed stared at the flickering screens, the glow beneath his skin growing brighter. He whispered, "The appetizer." The lights went out again. Outside, in orbit above Earth, the satellites blinked one by one. Blue, then white, then red. They formed a perfect circle around the planet. And from deep space, a whisper echoed across every frequency. "Welcome to the main course." Smoke drifted through the corridors of Facility 9. The alarms had stopped, but the silence that followed was worse. It felt like the whole world was holding its breath. Commander Vale stood outside Reed's containment room, her hand tight around her weapon. Behind the glass, he was still, eyes closed, body glowing faintly blue like a heartbeat trapped in light. Her headset crackled. "Commander, we lost contact with 3 surface stations. Systems are acting strange. Satellites turning offline, then back on." "Back on?" she asked. "Yes, ma'am. But they're transmitting something in an unknown code. It's spreading fast." Vale looked through the glass again. Reed's lips were moving, whispering words she couldn't hear. She activated the intercom. "Captain Reed, can you hear me?" His eyes opened slowly. The glow inside them was softer now, almost human again. "Yes," he said quietly, "but not just you. I can hear everyone." Vale frowned. "Everyone?" Reed nodded weakly. "They're connected. Through me. Through every system that ever touched Vega 9. Vale turned to the technicians. Cut all network access now. Go full isolation mode. Allah. Ready tried, one of them said. The system refuses the command. It says access locked by host. She looked back at Reed. You're the host. He shook his head slowly. No. I'm just the first door. Hours passed. The facility went dark except for emergency lights. Teams worked manually, ripping cables out of walls, trying to stop whatever signal had entered. But even offline, screens flickered faint blue, as if the machines were dreaming. Reed sat in his cell, breathing carefully. The voice inside his head was quieter now, almost like a whisper at the edge of thought. Captain, the hunger is not ours alone. Your world has tasted it before. He tried to ignore it, but the whisper painted pictures in his mind. Crowded cities, glowing advertisements for fresh dining, smiling faces biting into food that shimmered faintly blue. The infection was already here. He slammed his fist against the wall. Stop showing me this! The lights pulsed once, and the whisper faded into laughter. In the control room, Vale watched live feeds from orbit. Dozens of satellites had shifted formation, aligning into a perfect spiral around Earth. From each one, a beam of blue light reached down, invisible to the naked eye, but bright on sensors. Commander, a technician said, voice shaking. They're not just transmitting, they're printing. Nanoscopic code patterns inside our communication grid. What kind of code? Vale asked. Living code, ma'am. Biological structure translated into signal. It's rewriting anything connected. Vale's jaw tightened. Then nothing connects. Pull every plug on this planet if you have to. The technician hesitated. What about life support systems? Hospitals? Air traffic? Vale didn't answer. She looked up at the feed. One beam was aimed directly at Facility 9. Down below, Reed heard the hum before anyone else did. It started soft, like wind through glass. Then it grew louder, vibrating through the floor, through his bones. He stood up, gripping the wall. Vale, shut it off! She peered at the window, shouting orders into her comm. Seal the facility! But the hum turned into a pulse, and suddenly every light went blue. Reed screamed, clutching his head. Memories flooded through him. Not his own. 1,000 voices whispering at once. Chefs, waiters, diners, victims. All linked. All awake. He saw Earth's cities from above. Bright clusters of blue where the signal had touched. Restaurants, markets, even vending machines glowing faintly as something inside them began to move. Vale fired at the glass to reach him, but the bullets froze mid-air, caught in a shimmering field. Reed's voice rose, layered with something not quite human. They're coming through the network. They don't need ships anymore. They can grow here. Fight it, Reed, she shouted. You're human! Remember that! He looked at her, tears glowing blue on his cheeks. I remember. That's why it hurts. Then the field vanished, and he fell to the floor. Later, when the hum finally stopped, Vale entered the cell with 2 soldiers. Reed was unconscious, but alive. The glow under his skin was fading, leaving dark veins like scars. One soldier whispered, Is it over? Vale didn't answer. She looked up at the ceiling cameras. They were still recording, tiny blue dots blinking in rhythm, heartbeat slow and steady. She turned to her team. Move him to deep isolation. No tech, no light, no signal. He's not our prisoner. He's our firewall. As they carried Reed away, he stirred, mumbling words she almost didn't catch. Too late. They're already inside the feed. That night, across the world, people noticed strange flickers on their devices. Restaurant ads playing by themselves, menus whispering static words that no one understood. Some laughed it off, some recorded it and posted online. And by morning, millions of screens glowed faintly blue. The same message appeared everywhere, translated automatically by every device. Dinner served. Planetary host confirmed. Deep underground, Reed's eyes opened in the dark. He wasn't glowing anymore, but somewhere inside his chest, something small pulsed once, twice, then stopped, as if waiting for a signal only it could hear. And far above him, the satellites began to move again. Not just around Earth this time, but pointing outward, sending the same signal to the stars. Reservation complete. The sky over Earth had changed. At night, the stars no longer looked still. They pulsed with faint blue light, as if something alive was breathing behind them. Cities went quiet. Power grids flickered. Every screen, every signal, every satellite hummed with the same rhythm. Slow, patient, waiting. In Facility 9, deep under the Nevada desert, Commander Vale hadn't slept for 3 days. Every system above ground was infected. Only her underground bunker still held, powered by old analog cables and oil-burning generators. She stood before a sealed steel door, listening. Behind it, Captain Reed was still alive. A guard approached. "Ma'am, he's asking for you." Vale hesitated, then keyed the lock. The heavy door slid open with a sigh. The room inside was small and dark, lit only by a single lamp. Reed sat in the corner, shackled, his eyes half closed. He looked older, paler, but human again. "You shouldn't be here," he said softly. "I need answers," Vale replied. "The signal hasn't stopped. Whatever you fought up there, it's spreading." Reed looked up. "It's not spreading. It's growing. It uses thought like soil. The more we fear it, the stronger it gets." Vale crossed her arms. "Then how do we stop it?" He smiled faintly. "We can't stop hunger. We can only change the menu." Hours later, a tremor shook the facility. The control room erupted with shouts. "Commander! Multiple impacts across the planet! Energy spikes in every major city!" Vale ran to the screens. On the feed, she saw them. Towers of blue light shooting from rooftops, forming massive circular patterns. Inside the circles, shadows moved, humanoid, thin, bending like smoke. "Are those ships?" someone asked. Reed's voice came from behind her. "No, those are invitations." He stepped closer, still weak but focused. "They're using Earth as a signal beacon. The Syndicate isn't invading, they're coming to dine." Vale stared at him. "And you know how to stop them?" He nodded slowly. "Maybe, but I'll need to let them in. Just once." "Let them in?" she snapped. "We barely survived last time." Reed met her eyes. "If I open the link through me, I might talk to the real core, the thing controlling all this. If I can convince it that Earth isn't worth eating." Vale interrupted. "And if you fail?" He looked down at his hands, faint light pulsing beneath his skin again. "Then I make sure the last taste they ever get is poison." They brought him to the old reactor chamber, the only place left with enough power to send a full transmission. Vale watched through a reinforced window as technicians connected analog wires to his containment chair. Reed closed his eyes. "Once the link opens, don't pull me out unless I tell you. If it feels like I'm losing control, destroy the chamber." Vale nodded grimly. "Good luck, Captain." He smiled. Let's hope they hate the flavor of fear. The lights dimmed. The hum began, soft at first, then rising until the metal walls trembled. Reed's body arched as blue light poured from his veins, his mind filled with static, then with voices. Thousands, millions, every infected mind on Earth, every drone, every piece of code whispering the same word, consume. He forced himself to speak aloud. Show yourself. The static shifted. Out of the noise, a shape formed, a face, built from light and memory. It looked like the waiter, smiling gently. Captain Reed, you finally understand your purpose. You are the bridge between flavor and flesh. Reed gritted his teeth. You call it flavor, I call it genocide. Words. You humans invent morals to hide your hunger. You consume planets of your own kind, resources, life. We only refined it. Reed took a deep breath. Then let's make a deal. The light face tilted, curious. A deal? Take me. Leave Earth. Silence. Then laughter. Cold, metallic, endless. You would feed us with yourself? Reed's hands clenched on the chair. I'll give you something new. A taste you can't survive. And what flavor is that? He smiled faintly. Regret. He opened his mind completely. Every memory, every emotion, loss, guilt, fear, hope, flooded into the link. The network convulsed. All across the planet, screens exploded, drones fell from the sky. The syndicate's voice screamed through every channel. It burns! What is this? Reed whispered through clenched teeth. That's humanity. The chamber lights flared white, then burst. When Vale entered minutes later, the air was heavy with ozone. The chair was empty. Only a faint blue scorch mark remained on the floor. Report, she said quietly. A technician trembled. The satellites, all offline. The signal's gone. Vale looked at the mark again. He did it. Days passed. The skies cleared. People returned to their lives, unaware how close they had come to becoming food. But at night, Vale sometimes looked up and thought she saw one star shining a little brighter than the rest, pulsing once every few seconds, like a heartbeat. One evening, a message appeared on her secure console. No sender, no origin, just a line of text. Tell them, dinner's over. Ah. She smiled faintly. Rest well, Captain. She closed the terminal. Outside her window, the wind carried a low hum, soft, almost kind. And far beyond the clouds, in the endless dark between stars, something stirred and whispered back. Until the next taste.